Yesterday morning, I was still smiling. My daughter Lena had sent me a link to lemon grove photos in Positano, Italy. "Imagine the smell, Mom," she'd written. My son Sam had called the night before to tell me his Boston restaurant was fully booked for the weekend. For a moment, it felt like all the years of late nights, second jobs, and quiet sacrifices had bloomed into something warm. Then, as I was scrolling through my emails over tea, I saw it. From Lena. No subject line. I clicked without thinking. She texted, "Hey, so after talking with my fiancé and his parents, we decided to kinda streamline the guest list for the Positano wedding, which means you can't be there. If you want to be part of it, you can always check it on Google Earth." LOL. I stared at the words. My breath stopped. A joke? Was she serious? Why did my hands feel cold all of a sudden? I read it again, slower, as if that could make it kinder. But the letters stayed sharp. I'm Mary Whitmore, 62, a widow for 12 years, living alone in a cedar-shingled house on the rocky coast of Maine. I've been a mother longer than I've been anything else. Now my daughter's wedding will happen without me. And that's the moment I realized I hadn't just been left out today. They'd been leaving me out for years. "Did you just cross your own mother off the guest list for your wedding?" I didn't soften it. The words came out cold and straight the moment Lena picked up. Outside, fog slid across the porch, curling around the railings. On the table beside me, my Earl Grey still sent up gentle steam, but the scent felt muted, smothered by the bitter taste rising in my throat. "Mom, don't put it like that," she said, a small laugh tucked into her voice. "It's just, David's family wants to keep things streamlined. Fewer people means it'll feel more intimate." Streamlined. The word rolled around in my head like a cold pebble. In her eyes, I was excess, something to be trimmed away so the day could feel closer. "This is your wedding we're talking about, Lena. Not a backyard cocktail party." She let out a short breath. "You understand? It's about the space, the feeling. We want it to be perfect. You can still watch through the Google Earth window. It's basically like being there, Google Earth." I pictured myself at this same kitchen table, alone, scrolling over Positano rooftops, trying to catch a glimpse of my daughter in a moment I wasn't welcome to enter. "You know I've already sent you 25,000, I said, my voice steady. "And I was about to send 45,000 more for the rest of the wedding, so I could sit here at home and watch it on a computer." "Mom, it's not about the money. Please don't turn this into some kind of transaction. This is about feelings, mood, atmosphere." "Feelings?" I almost laughed. "If feelings were the goal, then congratulations, Lena. You've succeeded. I've never felt more excluded in my life." "The feeling I have right now," I said slowly, "is that I've been cut out." "And you call that intimate?" Her voice sharpened. "You can't make everything about you." That one landed deep, I saw, in quick flashes. The nights I stayed up grading papers to cover her tuition, the plane tickets I bought just to hold her after a breakup, the empty dinners when she cancelled last minute for work. I drew in a long breath. "If this is about feelings, you've made them perfectly clear." She was silent for a few seconds, then, almost quietly, "I just hope you understand." "I do," I said, and I ended the call. The click of the line disconnecting was sharp in the small kitchen, and I knew. This wasn't just about a plane ticket to Italy. This was a boundary. And this time, I wasn't going to cross it. My daughter just told me to watch her wedding from space. That was the only sentence in my head as I stared at the harbour. The harbour lay in grey stillness, every sound sharp. I sat on the weathered bench, coffee cupped in both hands, steam curling into the cold air. Marjorie's boots crunched on the gravel path. She'd been my closest friend since college, blunt where I was careful, fearless where I hesitated. "You picked the coldest bench in town," she said, dropping onto the seat beside me. "I like the view," I murmured. In truth, I liked the emptiness. No eyes on me, No one asking for anything. "All right," she said finally. "What happened?" "She told me not to come." Marjorie's head snapped. "Lena?" "Yes, my own daughter. Wedding in Italy. Says I can watch through the Google Earth window." Marjorie stared. "She actually said that? To you?" "Word for word," I said flatly. "After I sent 25,000 to book the villa, the musicians, the photographer, and I was about to send another 45 for the rest." Marjorie let out a low whistle. "Mary, that's not just cold. That's frostbite. After everything you've done for her?" I stared at a fishing boat easing into the slip, its motor grumbling. "Normal people are going home to hot soup and a table where everyone has a place." "You made those tables, Mary. You kept them standing when the legs were shaking," she said. "And you still got pushed out of your own chair." After Mark died, I worked summers tutoring just so Lena could keep her dorm when she almost lost her scholarship. I sold Mark's old truck to pay for Sam's braces. I wired money to Paris when Lena cried about rent. She never asked how I was, just told me she'd figure it out. And I was the one who figured it out. Marjorie's jaw tightened, and she thinks she can still cash your checks while crossing you off the guest list. Number. That's not how family works. That's not how respect works. I asked if she was really telling her own mother to stay home. And she said it's about making the guest list intimate. I let the word hang. Intimate? As in me watching strangers toast my daughter from 4,000 miles away? "That's not intimacy, that's convenience," Marjorie shot back. And then she told me it's about the feeling, that I shouldn't make it about money. Marjorie laughed without humour. Easy to say when it's not her money. You've been her safety net so long, she doesn't even notice it's there. I looked down at my gloves, one of which was stained from spilling coffee earlier. The feeling I have is being cut out of my own child's life. It's seeing her name on my phone and wondering if she's calling to talk, or because she needs something. When was the last time she called just to say she missed you? I thought for a moment. I can't remember. You've always been the one to pick up, Marjorie said. Always. Through school changes, bad apartments, heartbreaks. I was the emergency contact for everything, and I never kept score. I told myself that's what mothers do, and now I feel like I've been given an expiration date, like my use has run out. Marjorie leaned back, eyes fixed on the horizon where the clouds cracked just enough to let in a strip of pale light. Then it's time, Mary. Time to stop paying rent in other people's lives. If they shut you out, don't buy the key to get back in. Build your own door. Her words landed heavy, like a rope dropping to the dock. I didn't answer, but something in me shifted. That afternoon, I walked into the bank with one purpose. The branch manager looked up. "Mrs. Whitmore, what can I do for you today? I need to cancel a transfer." He pulled up my account. The 45,000 to the Positano, Italy venue. "Yes. There may be a cancellation fee depending on processing." "Are you sure you want to proceed?" I leaned forward. "Under federal law, if the transfer hasn't cleared, I have the right to reverse it without penalty." "Has it cleared?" He checked the screen. "No. You're in time." "Then cancel it." My voice was steady, but I could feel the release building under my ribs. I signed the reversal form and pushed it back across the desk. No explanations, no apologies. On my way out, the glass door reflected a face I almost didn't recognize, mine, but lighter somehow. Outside, I paused, watching a mother help her son tie his shoe on the sidewalk. Normal families, I thought, having normal conversations about nothing at all. When was the last time Lena and I had one of those? Not about money, not about fixing her latest crisis. Just talking, the way we used to. I turned toward my car, realizing I hadn't just stopped a payment. I'd stopped buying my place in her life. The knock on my door felt less like a visit and more like an ambush. When I opened it, Lena's cheeks were already flushed. Sam planted behind her with his arms crossed, like my sentence had been written in advance. Lena didn't wait for an invitation. She stormed in. "We need to talk." "Seems so," I said, closing the door. She turned on me fast. You're blowing this way out of proportion. David's parents are covering most of the wedding. The resort is already nervous. Do you have any idea how bad this looks? I stayed by the armchair, my fingers laced together to keep them still. Lena, you told me to stay home, to watch your wedding through a computer screen. Why should I pay for something I'm not invited to? It's my wedding, she snapped. You're ruining it. Sam stepped in, voice clipped. She's right, Mom. You always make everything about you. That word, always, landed like a punch. Always. The rent I covered when Lena lived in Paris. The credit card I maxed out for Sam's medical bills. How many times did I choose them over myself? How many times did I swallow what I wanted because they needed something more? I met Sam's stare, my voice steady. No. I've been making it about you two your entire lives. I'm just finally making one thing about me. Lena shook her head, stepping closer. This isn't about you. No, I cut in, voice hard now. It's about me finally drawing a line. I'm only circling around the people who haven't turned their backs on me. The room went still. Lena's eyes darted to Sam, urging him to keep pressing. Sam's jaw tightened. So what? You think withholding the money is going to teach us a lesson? That's petty. I almost laughed. Petty. This isn't a lesson, I said. It's a boundary. You don't get to shut me out and expect me to keep paying the bills like nothing happened, Sam scoffed. You're just angry you're not the center of attention. Angry? I said quietly. No, I'm done. Silence. Even the refrigerator seemed to hold its breath. Sam stepped forward, eyes hard. You're making a huge mistake, Mom. You'll regret it. Regret what? I thought. Buying my place in your lives, over and over. I stood straighter. Sam, you need to leave. What? You heard me. If you came here to guilt me into paying for a wedding I'm not invited to, the conversation's over. Lena's voice was tight. Mom, no, Lena. You made your choice. I'm making mine. They exchanged a look, then walked out. The door shut, leaving the house too quiet, not peaceful, just hollow. Normal families are laughing over dinner right now, I thought. When was the last time we did that? Outside, the tide was rising. So was something in me. The next morning, I met Marjorie at our usual bench by the harbour. The wind carried the faint tang of salt, and gulls traced lazy loops in the pale sky. She studied my face as I sat down. So, how'd it go? They left, I said, pulling my coat tighter, slamming doors and all, and I didn't chase after them. Her eyebrows lifted. Didn't chase? Well, look at you. I tried to laugh, but it came out thin. I just stood there. I've been paying for a seat at a table where they don't even want me. Marjorie tilted her head. And yesterday, you decided to stop buying tickets. More like I walked away. She gave a slow shake of her head. No, Mary. You didn't walk away. You walked toward something, toward yourself. Her words landed heavier than I expected. Toward myself, I repeated, almost testing the sound. I'm not sure I've ever done that. Even before the kids, it was always about someone else, their needs, their dreams. That's what makes you you, Marjorie said. But you can't make your whole life a rescue mission for people who won't throw you a rope back. I stared out at the fishing boats, their masts swaying in the tide. You know what Lena told me? That I shouldn't make it about money, as if the money was the only thing I'd lost. What else did you lose? Marjorie asked gently. My place. My role. I hesitated, feeling the words scrape on the way out. It's like they've given me an expiration date. As if my use has run out, Marjorie leaned forward, her voice firm. Mary, your worth isn't tied to being needed. You get to need yourself. Now I sat with that for a long moment, the waves slapping rhythmically against the pier. It's strange. All these years I told myself motherhood was about giving, but I forgot it's also about living. Her eyes softened, You raised them. You showed up. And now, you get to show up for you. For the first time in weeks, my chest didn't feel like it was bracing for impact. The air smelled sharper, brighter, like something new was possible. The email from Lena landed in my inbox on a Tuesday morning. No greeting, no warmth, just a flat statement. Change of plans. We'll do something small in New York. Instead, I read it twice. The old me might have felt the sting, the heat rising behind my eyes. But now? Nothing sharp. Just a quiet, even stillness. The kind you feel after a long storm finally burns itself out. By Friday, the whispers made their way to me. The villa in Positano had released the date by which the final payment had to arrive. The band took another booking. The photographer moved on. The grand cinematic wedding had deflated into a dinner in Midtown New York. A dozen guests, mostly David's colleagues and his family. I wasn't on the list. Marjorie found me at the harbour the next morning. "So, it's off?" she asked. "Positano's off," I corrected. "They're doing something smaller." "And you?" I sipped my coffee, feeling the warmth against my hands. "I'm not going." I wasn't invited. Her brow furrowed, as if she expected me to crack. "Upset?" she pressed. "No," I said simply. "Not anymore. I'm done buying my way into places I was never meant to stand." That night, I brewed a pot of Earl Grey, let the steam curl up and fog the glass as I sat by the window. Outside, the tide pulled back from the shore, slow and deliberate. Somewhere in New York, they were raising glasses without me. And for the first time, I didn't feel left out. I felt light, untethered, free. The next morning, I drove to the bank and moved the $45,000 into a new account, under my name only. I didn't know exactly what I'd do with it yet, but I knew it wouldn't be spent on anyone's approval. Marjorie laughed when I told her. "A freedom fund," she called it. I smiled, realizing she was right. That money wasn't for a villa or a wedding or a seat at a table. It was for me. For plane tickets I actually wanted to use, for nights I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to enjoy, for the life I'd been too busy funding for other people to live myself. And just like that, the future didn't feel empty anymore. It felt wide open. A week later, I sat at my kitchen table with the bank statement spread in front of me. $45,000, a number that used to mean security for someone else's dream, now stared back at me like an open door I hadn't realized was mine to walk through. I opened my laptop. The cursor blinked in the search bar, patient and expectant. My fingers hovered for a moment, then typed, "Solo travel tours for women over 60. 2 hours later, my future had a map. Paris in the spring, a slow train through the Swiss Alps, a writing retreat in the lavender hills of Provence, and, because I'd always promised myself I would, a hot air balloon festival in Cappadocia. Every ticket purchased, every date inked in. Not theirs, not ours, mine. When I called Marjorie to tell her, she let out a bark of laughter. "Mary Whitmore," she said between chuckles, "you're not just living. You've grabbed the steering wheel, thrown the map out the window, and hit the gas." That night, I poured a glass of deep red wine and sat out on the porch. The Atlantic lay before me, black silk stitched with silver moonlight. I listened to the waves, to my own breath, to the sudden quiet of not waiting, not for approval, not for permission, not for the sound of someone else's needs before my own. I thought of all the tables I'd set in my life, where my seat felt like a courtesy, not a right. And I knew I would never again pay for a place in someone else's story. Freedom isn't given, it's claimed. I raised my glass toward the horizon. "Here's to women who stop asking for a seat," I said softly, "and start building their own table." The waves carried my words away, but the certainty stayed. And then another thought rose in me, steady as the tide. This was not just about me. It was about every mother who'd ever gone unseen, every woman who'd been told her worth ended when her children no longer needed her. It was about rewriting the ending we were all handed, the one where we fade quietly into the background. I wasn't fading. I was igniting. The next morning I bought a new journal, not for grocery lists, not for bills, but for the chapters of a life I hadn't yet lived. On the first page I wrote, "This story belongs to me." The pen shook a little in my hand, but the words came strong. I don't know if Lena or Sam will ever understand what I chose, or if they'll ever come back to me with open hands instead of open wallets. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But for the first time, I realized my peace doesn't hinge on their recognition. My life is not a waiting room for their love. As the gulls wheeled overhead and the ocean stretched endless before me, I felt it deep in my bones. I was no longer a background character. I was the author now. I was free. And I was just getting started. And this time, the story would finally be mine. The late sun poured over a square in Florence, turning the rooftops to gold. I sat at a cafe beneath a striped awning, a light scarf at my shoulders, an espresso in my hand. My travel journal lay open on the table, its pages thick with train tickets, museum stubs and hurried notes, proof that I had been here, really here. An accordion played nearby, the music carrying both ache and triumph. I closed my eyes and let it wash over me, and without meaning to, I remembered Lena's words. "You can always watch on Google Earth." LOL. I smiled. Not bitter anymore, because no screen could capture this coffee, this sunlight, this pulse of freedom running through me. Google Earth gave distance. I had chosen presence. Somewhere in New York, Lena might be raising a glass at a small dinner, Sam pacing his restaurant floor. Maybe neither of them will notice my absence, but for once I don't care. I've stopped paying for a place at their table. The world itself has become mine. That night, on a balcony above the Arno, I held another ticket, this one to Cappadocia. I could already see it. Dawn breaking, the basket lifting, hundreds of balloons floating across the sky. No demands, no guilt, just me and the horizon, finally wide open. I whispered to the night, once I bought my place in someone else's story. Now I'm writing my own, and for the first time in my life, the words didn't feel like a declaration. They felt like the truth. So, that's how the story ends. If this made you think, or if you've lived through something similar, share your thoughts in the comments. Our channel is a space for sharing tales of the elderly and family revenge stories from people who have weathered life's storms. Subscribe to the channel for more, because sometimes the deepest form of revenge is simply living on your own terms.